Hey folks, welcome back. We are not on the farm this morning. We just got done with coffee and we're headed over to get a new implement that we got for the farm. It's a hay rake. We'll show you what we're picking up and let you know what we're going to do with it. Stick around. Now, I'd been looking for a hay rake for the homestead because when we bush hog all the outer areas of the farm, there's a lot of grass laying on the ground, and we can use that for our mulch pile. And if we could gather it all up, we did it one time with a landscape rake, but that was kind of a pain. And I thought if I had a hay rake, that would make short work of it. So I'd been looking for one. And I had found one about an hour and a half away that was a real decent price. And I was telling my buddies about it at breakfast. And one of them said, well, why are you going that far? I got one right over here you can have just to get rid of it. So I went and looked at it, and it's a nice hay rake. It'll do what we're going to do, and it's the exact kind I was looking for. So that worked out well, saved me a ton of money, and having to drive an hour and a half and figure out how to get a hay rake back. So let's go over and see if we can drag her out of the weeds. Well, this rain wasn't supposed to start for a while, but I'll just wait it out. It'll stop here within a few minutes. They always say that about the weather everywhere. If you don't like it, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. But I've never seen it more true than here in Nebraska. We got to make our way around the edge of this hay field, and then the hay rake's over here in the trees. Here's the old hay rake out here in the weeds. Mosquitoes are out flying out here even though there's a little drizzle. But this thing's mired down in here pretty well. First thing we got to do is we need to make sure that the head is up. And you do that by turning these screws here. Hopefully they're not froze up. I brought a grease gun and all that in case we need it. We'll see what we got to do here. Alright, we had to jack the front of this thing up to get this front tire out of the hole that was in so we could spin it. And then we put a little bit of air in the tire because I brought our portable air tank. So I think it's got enough to at least get us out of the hole. The other tires are still up. So I tried cranking this thing up. It looks like it's up most of the way. So we're going to try to jerk this thing out of the hole. See how it goes. Raining again. Not too heavy. But we'll wait a minute. We got it pulled out of the hole, so got a little hop to it because I think one of the other tires probably needs some air too. Well, this tire was flat. It did feel pretty hard like it had air in it, but the part that's on the ground rotted out. It's got a tube in it, but when I put some air in it, it opened that tire up like a zipper. So we're going to have to pull this drive shaft off of here and get this tire off so we can take it over to the tire shop, get this tire swapped out because we got to road this thing home. This other tire here looks like, well, I don't know if it's much better. It might hold if it's got a tube in it. Let's shoot some air into this one, see how it does. Well, to get this tire off, you've got to pull this coupler off, and it's got a regular like PTO coupler here. Problem is our shaft is bottomed out, so you've got no room to come out because this is hitting right here. My guess is we're going to have to cut this back a little ways to give us a little play here. So we can't get this loose. This was frozen, had to beat that up. But this isn't going to come off anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take this U-joint loose and then we can pull this off. Well, try as I might, we gave it a good hour. Could not get that yoke off of the drive sprocket deal there. So then I decided to take the U-joint apart, and that's not coming apart. So now, headed home to get my wireless cutoff wheel, and we're going to make short work of this. Alright, we're back. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our cutoff wheel and we're going to cut this side of the U-joint, and then our punch is stuck in the other side, so our punch is going to be a little bit shorter than it used to be, but that should allow us to take this yoke off. Alright, we got our drive shaft loose. We've got it bungee corded to the frame here. So now we need to see if we can get this yoke off now, since we have some play. If not, I'm hoping maybe the hub in the wheel will come around that thing. Alright, I brought a bigger hammer and I was able to tap that thing around and finally get it loose from that shaft. It was frozen on there pretty good. So now I'm going to put that pin back in that I took out, because I don't think it's going to do any good. I think all it does is lock that shaft. I don't know if I showed you when I took that other pin out, but I think that may hold the hub onto the spindle. Alright, we got that pin back in. Let's get this tire off after I get a battery. Alright, got our old crusty tire off. Found another issue as we were pulling it off. We've got bearing issues here, but it's going to be a real slow drive home. So I'm hoping that we're not going to have too much of a problem. It feels like it's just loose. It feels like this nut needs to be tightened on the other side, because when I shove it in, it tightens up. So maybe I'll try to find a big crescent wrench while we're here in town and tighten that up. But for right now, let's go see if we can find us a tire here in town. They found me an old tire here at the tire shop, so they're going to switch it out. He's cleaning the old rim because it was full of dirt, so he's wire wheel in the bead lock area, so hopefully the new tire will set. Well, they're extremely busy at the tire shop, but Christina down there, she's an angel. She got me right in and put me on the front line and get that tire fixed. Now I found out the rim had a pinhole in it, so it's not going to hold air, so he cleaned up the whole rim because it was crusty rusty, wire wheeled the whole thing and put a tube in it. So it took air and we should be able to get home on that. Now, just in case we have any more issues, they've got no more 14-inch tires. I got the last one at the tire shop. I'm going to go to Tractor Supply real quick while I'm in town. A lot of times they have tires there on the rack that'll work, and sometimes even on the rim. So it's a 4-lug rim. Let's see if they have a 14-inch with a 4-lug rim, and that'll be, if we have any issues, we know we can come back and get one. Well, the only 14s they have are on a 5-lug wheel, and they don't have any loose 14 inches. So we're out of luck. If we can't get home, we'll be running on the rim. Okay, we got our tire back on, and we took our BFR, put on that nut. We got like a turn on it, I think, or so. It doesn't feel as loose in there, but as tight as it's going to get. Now we jacked it back up, and we confirmed that most of our play is gone. They're just a very minute amount. So we were able to pull those bearings back together and tighten that up. So let's check the rest of these tires for air, and hopefully we can get on the road. Now this thing has externally greasable hubs, so we shot grease in both sides. There's no zerk on the front. Okay, we're hooked up. These two tires have got like bare minimum of 20 pounds in them. And this tire here is super sketchy. Sidewall's all blown out. There's weeds grown into it. But there's a tube inside. So we're hoping this tube will hold up. We're not going to do any more than about 20 miles an hour. But we have about 13 miles to go. Our head's up as high as we can get it, so I don't think we're going to drag. But wish me luck. Alright, we're on the road. So far so good. We're going to try to do about 20 miles an hour all the way home. We've got just a little short piece of the highway to get on, which is going to be a little sketchy. But we've got our flashers on and we'll just take it easy. Once we get on the gravel, I won't be as worried. The biggest problem with the tire on the front, which is the sketchiest tire, if it blows, it lowers the whole unit down, and those teeth on that rake are only about 3 inches off the ground, so those would probably start dragging. Alright, thank God we made it off the highway. Our sketchy tire is still holding air. I put a strap around the top rake bar to keep it from rotating, because it's free rotating now, so that'll keep those up off the ground. Got a ways to go. Hopefully we get there. Alright, we made it to the gravel. Still going strong. Now another thing I hope that'll happen, I hope some gravel doesn't work its way into that rotten tire and puncture our tube. That wouldn't be good. Well, we're on the home stretch. We're close enough now to where if we had an issue, we could just put it on the side of the road, come back with the tractor and hook it up and bring it the rest of the way home. So I'm feeling a little better. I thought about stopping about halfway and check and see if the spindles or anything were getting hot, but sometimes you're just better off not knowing. I think we made it. There's the driveway. Ooh, sweet success. I think we'll put it over by the shop so we're close to the tools when we do maintenance. Alright, thankfully we made it back home, back to where we have tools and equipment where we can actually do stuff. And I cannot believe this sketchy tire made it all the way home. Look at that thing, it's got threads showing and one whole side's delaminated. That's insane. Those old tubes really hold up. Pretty crazy. Even had weeds growing inside the tire. So let's give you a little walk around of our John Deere Hay Rake. So this is a John Deere 640 ground driven hay rake. Now they made a couple different types of these. I don't know if they changed the number, but not all of them had the wheel on the front. Some of them had just a tongue that came out and you could lift it up and down with the 3-point bar on the tractor. But this has a gauge wheel on the front. So these with the gauge wheel, they follow the terrain a lot better, because when your tractor goes up and over a ditch and stuff, it lifts the head off of the ground. Whereas with this third wheel, it kind of goes with the contour and keeps your head nice and level with the ground as you go. So this is a ground-driven hay rake, which means there's no PTO. So the tires rolling on the ground are what drives the head. And these are parallel bars on the head. There's 5 bars. So as this thing goes around, the bars go down and up, down and up, down and up. And they have these rubber mounted teeth right here. The old ones had like a spring mounted tooth on here. Missing a couple teeth we'll have to replace, but that's not a big deal. But as that goes around, it pulls the hay up off the ground and rolls it. And because it's at an angle, all of the hay comes off of this side and then makes a row right here as you travel along. But it's in pretty good shape. It doesn't look like it's real wore out. And then this is the mechanism that turns the gearbox off. So as you pick up the head with those cranks in the front, it pulls on this cable and automatically disengages your rake. The older one that I used before, you had to come out here and manually do that. So that's cool. You can see the drive line between the two tires. And then it has a drive line for here, but we had to separate that. So we need to buy a new U-joint. We've got to clean this spline up, so that could come on and off when we need to change a tire. And then this PTO shaft here is bottomed out and it's rusted solid there. So we'll have to separate that. And I believe we're going to have to cut a little bit of this outer square tubing off for it to work as designed. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe with the head down it would lengthen it out a little bit, but we'll check that before we cut it. But definitely need some TLC, of course. We'd like to get definitely a new tire on the front. But we'll have to come in here too where the screws are. These can't see that one because of that binder, but I'll show you this one here. So these screws need to be cleaned up and brushed real good. They got a grease surge there. We put grease in them, but because these threads are so bunged up, it doesn't screw very well. So we'll screw these completely off. We'll clean these threads up real well, and then we'll grease this, and this will go in and out real easy with the turn of these handles. It's pretty stiff right now. But you can adjust each side independently to get your hay rake level with the ground. You can see this side's a little higher than that side because this side cranked a little more than this side did. But that's easy fix. And we'll order up some new teeth. Believe it or not, you can get those on Amazon. And they just bolt through the bars. The bearings on the bars look to be real solid. There's nothing wobbling. So we won't have to mess with that. I don't think there's any grease dirt on those. But everything's in pretty good shape. Special thanks to my buddy Dave at Coffee for kicking this thing down to us. Really appreciate that. I'll find a video of one of these working and I'll show you what it does so you have a better idea. But I'll go up here and show you what we're going to do with it. So when we bush hog all of our back areas, we got quite a extensive area that we bush hog all the way up there, all the way around down below the barn. There's usually about 6 inches of grass laying on the ground. It's all dried up now and kind of worked in so you can't see it. But we can get that hay rake out here, do some rounds, pile it all up in the middle, and then we can bring the brush crusher over and pick those piles up. And we can take them to our compost pile and we'll end up with a lot more compost. If you've been around the channel, you've seen me do it with our landscape rake, but it's not really efficient. This hay rake will be much, much better and get up a lot more of that grass. Now last week I found a sickle mower on Facebook Marketplace. It had a 7-foot bar, 3-point mounted. that would have been perfect for us and had been gone through. They redid the knives on the sickle bar, but I just missed it. There was a guy ahead of me, snatched it right up. So we're still on the lookout for one of those, because if you cut this hay or grass with a sickle bar, you've got longer pieces and it's obviously easier to pick up. So plus with the sickle bar, we can come through in any banked areas. You can lower the bar down on the end or raise it up on the end to do some of these banked areas. Like this here, we could drive along up here on top of the old dam, lower that sickle bar down, and we can take down the height of all this big stuff here. Especially if it's pigweed or hemp or something like that, you can get it down before it goes to seed, and then chances are the following year it won't come back. So we got all of our tools put away. Going to go inside, see if Kelly took those leftover enchiladas to work for lunch. Maybe she didn't. Ooh, look at that. She didn't take them, so we got lunch, baby. Well, we're going to get cleaned up and have something to eat, get cooled off, get rehydrated. This whole project, we got about 5 hours into it, so I'm pretty beat. So I hope you enjoyed our video today. We'll get a video working on that thing and actually putting it to work. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on the farm. We love having you.